We're picking up on what Robert said there, that warning that some of our favourite foods, including chocolate, cheese and wine, could face a triple whammy of tariffs if the UK leaves the single market without securing a new trade deal. Well, let's go live now to Westminster, speak to the former Deputy Prime Minister, Nick Clegg. Good morning to you, Mr Clegg.
Morning.
There's a bit of an old wives' tale that cheese gives you nightmares, but you really have been losing sleep over cheese, haven't you?
Well, actually, maybe it's Marmite rather than cheese. Forgive me for mixing metaphors, but I think the sort of Marmite gate of last week might turn out to be sort of the tip of the iceberg. And the reason I say that is that we've been used for many, many years now to not only exporting beef, lamb, cheese, you name it, to the rest of Europe, but also importing huge amounts from the rest of Europe. We're not self-sufficient in food and drink as an island nation, and we do that without any checks at the border on hygiene standards, veterinary standards, and no taxes and levies, the so-called tariffs. Now, the report that I'm publishing today, I didn't just write it on my own, by the way. A number of authoritative experts helped me with it. Is simply taking what some of the senior Conservatives in the cabinet, like Liam Fox and others, are saying at face value, who are saying it doesn't matter if we leave the Europe's single market and the customs union, it'll all be fine if we resort to so-called WTO tariffs. But as the analysis that I'm publishing today shows, that if we do what they say, which has been dubbed a hard Brexit, we will face very big tariffs, 59% on beef, 40% on New Zealand lamb, 38% on chocolate, and so on. And I think we can avoid that if Theresa May were to announce that even as we leave the European Union, we nonetheless remain part of the EU single market.
And Mr Clegg, the key word there that you said is could. Prices could go up, but they could go down. I mean, how much of this is scaremongering? There are arguments that if we come out of the single market, prices could go down because experts say that EU tariffs actually inflate the prices of food, particularly if they come in from outside the EU. If we are to leave the EU and the single market, we could modify or abolish those tariffs and therefore balance it out. So prices could go down.
No, not really. I know that's claimed. I mean, it's claimed by many Brexiteers that there's a sort of great economic utopia awaiting us the moment we leave. We are going to leave, but the terms on which we leave are a little bit more complex than that. Firstly, of course, the European Union is duty bound to impose tariffs on what we export into Europe. And, our food and drink industry is enormous. It's bigger in terms of value to the British economy than the aerospace and automotive sectors combined. So this is not a small matter, but also the point you make about imports. Liam Fox recently, to a visit to the WTO, actually said that the UK will simply we will simply carbon copy the tariff arrangements that we already have in the WTO as part of as our membership of the European Union. Now, that means, whether he likes it or not, that we'll be duty bound again under WTO rules to impose those kind of tariffs on things that we import as well. And so, this idea that there is this kind of tariff-free nirvana out there under the WTO simply doesn't bear scrutiny, which is why one of the things I hope the government will be considering as it decides its negotiating mandate is to ignore those siren voices who believe we should go for the hardest of hard Brexits, but instead go for the best Brexit. And the best Brexit is, yes, we leave the European Union, but we remain part of the European Union's single market.
What about the accusation that this is all part of a sneaky master plan by the Bremoners, of which you are a self-proclaimed Bremoner, to try and delay Brexit? Looking at the front page of the Daily Telegraph today, it's all about this cabinet rift. So it's not only the Bremoners, but people within cabinet who are trying to slow down the process of Brexit. And all this talk about Marmite, cheese, wine and chocolate is feeding into that Project Fear 2.0 to try and whip up a frenzy and delay Brexit. Is this not part of the master plan?
I hate to correct you, but I think we're being accused of being Ramoners rather than Bremoners, but that's a small point. Look, the problem at the moment is we have particularly a number of sort of ardently Brexit newspapers who can't seem to move on from the referendum debate. So anyone who raises any legitimate questions about how we're going to leave, not whether we're going to leave, but how we're going to leave, gets shouted down as running some kind of plot to stop the thing happening. It's absurd. We have to now move into the kind of harder-edged questions of what it actually means for our farmers, for our exporters, for our importers. Are we going to be part of the customs union or not? Are we going to be part of the single market or not? And it's perfectly legitimate for people like me, who, however disappointed I am that we're going to leave, to say, yes, we're going to leave, but the terms of our departure are hugely important, because there are different ways of doing Brexit. And the problem, of course, as you will remember, is that the people who advocated Brexit, and they won the argument, Nigel Farage, Michael Gove, Boris Johnson, they couldn't agree amongst themselves about what it actually means in practice. Well, the clock is ticking. We now need to know what it actually means in practice.
OK, Nick Clegg, self-proclaimed Ramona, thank you very much for talking to us here on Sky News Sunrise, championing cheap chocolate, cheese and wine, all the things we really should be giving up.
Exactly.
Don't you think?
I do.